Ready, Dorothy. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order and start with the land acknowledgement statement. On Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe nation. Grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. Okay, next is the approval of the agenda, which we have here. First of all, I'd like to add an item under priority issues number 3, which is the properties of interest list, which committee members you'll find in your package for today. Are there any other additions to the agenda? No? Would someone move that we approve the agenda? Class, thank you. And a seconder? Jenny, thank you. Adoption of the minutes of the last meeting, which was May 23rd, 2024. Again, could I have a motion to approve the agenda? The minutes? Jenny, thank you. And a seconder? Class, thank you. Disclosure of monetary interest, anyone? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed with the priority issues then. 2 of them are items that came up at our last meeting at the roundtable discussion, so we'll just briefly touch on them. The first one is regarding the conversation we had last time at about the old Smith Falls Hydro building. Carl, could you just give a brief comment on that, please?
Certainly. So I think just to follow up on that conversation that arose, there has been continued interest. This is one of the oldest buildings in the town of Smith Falls. As far as from what we can tell, it was one of the original stone structures built, I believe, in the 1830s, although some of the original records are a little bit unclear. It's been owned by Hydro One or its predecessor companies for many decades, but the building is no longer needed by them for operational purposes. And certainly from this committee's perspective, they're interested in making sure that the building is retained in whatever form and isn't demolished if Hydro wants to surplus it. There was some discussion previous over the last number of years about whether a municipal designation would be an appropriate tool to protect the building. The advice we received is that since it is owned by Hydro One, they're a designated party under the Heritage Act, and therefore a municipal designation would not preclude them from applying to demolish the building if need be. It wouldn't have that protection compared to if any other private citizen owned the building. That being said, I can advise the committee that there is discussions ongoing between town staff and Hydro One officials, including one this afternoon, where we're essentially looking for other options. We've communicated clearly to Hydro at the political level as well as at the operational level our desire as the municipality to save the building, and this was discussed, I believe it was in the previous term of council actually when this first came forward, and council was very united in looking to find any alternatives to demolition. So there are discussions with Hydro, and certainly from where I gather, there's no danger in the immediate or short term that we're going to be faced with an application to demolish. So I think the wheels are turning on there, and that there will be a point fairly soon, I think, where council will be in position to make some decisions about a few aspects related to that. But at this point, the update I can give the committee is these discussions are underway. Unfortunately, I don't have anything too detailed to report, but I think the risk of a demolition is quite low in the immediate term, and we'll continue to work to find other options, either for stabilization or eventual reuse of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Con?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, Carl. Hydro owns the building. Who owns the land that the building sits on?
Hydro,
So they do own the property.
they do.
Okay, if Hydro doesn't want it demolished, are they prepared to have it rectified to some use, historical use or tourism use of some sort?
I think the understanding I have is that it's a liability to them right now.
Right.
So
That's what I
they don't have a need for it.
Like basically the word on the street is demolish it, is what I hear.
That was floated as something they were interested in a little while ago. At the end of the day, we can't, if they were to come in with a demolition permit, we can't stop them operationally. So there have been discussions held at a higher level, at the political level, looking to find an alternative solution.
Yeah, I personally, I can't see Hydro wanting to save the building, to be honest with you. You know, they're not in the historical business.
No.
So there was some mention about, some comment here about saving some items, corner facade stone sills, which I agree with save, and so forth. I was told by a reliable source, and I forget the gentleman's name, that in the basement of that building are massive electric motors.
That you're talking about the water treatment plant now. Okay.
Oh, the hydro building.
The hydro building.
The hydro building. Sorry, there's nothing in there.
No.
No, okay.
No.
Sorry,
When we were
wrong
talking
building.
about salvaging, yes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, how long has it been since that building was used?
The hydro building?
The hydro.
I think it's around 2010, I believe.
Yeah, if not
Quite a while.
before that. Yeah.
It's been closed for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the Old Mill Road. This,
Yeah.
Okay, I got questions on that one there too then later on. Sorry, thank you.
Okay. Priority issue number 2 is, sorry.
So Madam Chair, there was a request for, or a suggestion that the committee pass a resolution, so I'll leave that to you as to whether or not we or you feel the need to right now. I don't see any harm in adopting a resolution. At the end of the day, it conveys the Heritage Committee's desire and intent, and really it supports what we're trying to do at our end as well. But at this point, I don't see that there isn't any decision point that's being brought forward to council just yet on that particular.
So if you can keep us informed then, if there is a need, or if it seems appropriate for us to do that, then we will.
Okay.
All right. So moving on to number 2 then, the Railway Museum roof repairs. That was another item that was brought up last month, and we haven't addressed that in any way, but I will say that Lorraine Allen, who's not able to attend today, she asked me to give her a call after the meeting, and she is, I believe, on the Railway Museum board. So I'll have a conversation with her about that and see, what the situation is. And then I'll be able to report back at the next meeting. Okay? So item number 3 is the properties of interest list. Now, this is on the agenda and it's included in your package because of the email that we received from Carl last week, perhaps it was, with regards to the fact that the deadline has been extended for us to designate any current properties of interest. It was January of 2025, I believe, and it's been extended to January of 2027. So we have 2 more years. We did decide at the time that we couldn't cope with the timeline, and we decided to focus on the Heritage Conservation District, which will, if it's declared, will cover many of these properties of interest on our list which are not designated but are in the downtown core. So with regards to other properties of interest on the list which are not within the downtown core, if we're going to do anything, we need to get moving on it, because it takes quite a long time. We have to identify the heritage attributes, we have to consult with the property owners, we have to do a lot of groundwork before we get to the point of actually creating a bylaw which designates one of these properties. So I'm going to leave it with the committee to look at that list, and at the next meeting, if there's any one of those properties that any committee member thinks we should be getting to work on, then we can be more specific at our next meeting. Some of them are down Brockville Street. Some of them are a little further away. No, well, mostly there seem to be down Brockville Street, because the others are, generally speaking, within the downtown. Do you want to have a comment, class?
I want to, thank you, Madam Chairman. Davison Court, everyone surely knows that's where the Davison Bread Company was, when we made the bread and so forth. Were you aware of that on the other side of the river, off of Beckwith Street, down, I'm going to say Oak Street, sorry. Millie O'Neill. Do you know Millie O'Neill? You don't know Millie O'Neill. Well, where she used to live, okay, beside her house, there's a barn. And in that barn is where they kept the wagon and the horse that delivered the bread for the Davison Bread Company.
Really?
Yeah. The barn's still there. Still intact like it was 100 years ago, or whatever.
And you say it's on Oak Street?
I think it's Oak. I'll find out. I'll get the details on. Unfortunately, there's several people that know the whole story behind it, but they have passed on, and it's been passed on to me, just bits and pieces. But I will find out. And it's just that it maybe doesn't mean anything, but it's just a unique building that's still there, and that was the purpose of where they kept the horse and the wagon to deliver the bread at that end of town only. That was it. And of course, there's lots of stories about when the horse knew the bread run was done, back to the barn with or without the driver. It didn't matter to the horse. So there's all those. The other thing I was wondering about, the Washburn block. That's all.
That's the whole block.
That's the whole block of Beckwith.
Yes, that whole block is on the properties of interest list.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. The Rideau Theatre, is that the one on the corner? Yeah,
Yes.
Chamber Street, that's on the corner there. That used to be the old, that was the Soper Theatre.
It was the Capitol Theatre.
Capitol
then
Theatre.
the Rideau Theatre. It was never the Soper. The Soper was on Main Street.
No, that's right. Sorry. The Soper was on Main, yeah.
And it's gone. The Rideau Theatre is the only surviving theatre in Smith Falls. The others have vanished.
The Armories, that's on Market Street?
Yes.
That's that building where they do the rug rental now?
That's right, yes.
The upper floor of that was a car dealership at one time. And
Yes,
the
it
upper,
was.
And the upper floor, there was a ramp that was inside that building that they drove the cars up and they stored them up there for display to people. At one time. The ramp is still there.
Yes, I've seen it going by when the door was open.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it might be a good idea to focus on the ones that are not downtown at the moment.
Right.
Because we may very well, we don't know the outcome of our district yet, but we may very well capture
Yes,
a lot of those.
I agree. So the ones that are not, what have we got here? 78 Brockville Street, that's property number 15.
Yeah, Rockland House, yeah.
We've also got 89 and 97 Chambers Street.
Sorry, 89
and 97 Chambers. That's number 23 and 24 on this list.
I wonder on off of Chambers Street by Dewey's Garage, the Wellesley Hall. Is that an old building? Do you know where that is?
No, but it's not on the list.
No, it's not on the list. No. I know a person that knows all about that one. I'll find
Okay.
out just how old that is.
And we can always add properties to the properties of interest list if we've researched them properly and have written
Yeah.
a heritage statement on them.
Yeah.
But I think first we need to consider these that are on the list that have been there for a little while and what we're going to do. Are we going to try to designate them, or are we going to just leave them be? Carl?
Just to clarify, Klaus, as well, the urgency for this particular list is if we don't take action on these particular properties, then they fall off the list on January 1st, 2027, and they can't be added on for an additional 5 years. So that is, so I think I think there's the timeline there, as Dorothy stated. Any other property can be added on at any time, and then we have, under the Heritage Act, we have 2 years to consider a designation. But I think the intent of the legislation is to use the listing as simply a precursor to designation. Once a property is listed, then you shouldn't list a property unless you're potentially serious about designating it at some point, doing that research, and that's where that pause is. Whereas previously, historically, we and lots of other municipalities have designated or listed hundreds, thousands of properties with no intent to ever designate it. So I think, but that's where our timeline is, because we lose that protection.
Right, we did, because we knew that it would at least prevent any kind of immediate demolition, right? It gave that comfort zone, so to speak.
Just a question, was it the Clark Hardware? Was that Clark and Lewis?
Yes.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
I'll phone my buddy Ron Lyons. He'll give me the scoop on this stuff.
And actually on the second page, properties number 34 to 36 are outside the proposed, the study area. So, that's just for information and for the committee to decide how we might proceed with that deadline in mind.
2027, you said?
2027, yeah.
Well, we got some time yet.
Excuse me, Chair. Sorry, just for clarification, so the action then is the committee members are going to review the list and bring forward outside of the Heritage Conservation District?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
And a big part of it is going to be conversations with the people who own these properties. And, you know, if committee members are willing to participate in that, we can perhaps move some of these forward. Carl?
Yeah, and I think the reason why, and it's 2.5 years from now, but that time flies very fast. And I think one of the reasons why this committee and council and many other municipalities passed resolutions asking the province for more time is for that same reason. And it takes time to have that thoughtful approach, that conversation with the property owners, the research, the bylaw preparation. If we're not going to do it ourselves, then we're going to need to retain consultants to do that. And then the consultants are probably have lots of municipalities looking for the same thing. So it's become I think a couple of calendar years gives us lots of time, but that time gets taken up very quickly just based on the due diligence. And really we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure that we're looking at the right properties for the right reasons.
Right.
So that there is buy-in as much as we possibly can.
We do have a bylaw template now, though.
We do. We're further ahead now than we were a couple of years ago.
We just need some information to put into it. Okay, any more questions, comments about that?
Sorry, did you have your hand up, Tony? Okay.
So we'll move on then to project updates. We need to discuss the symposium. Now, I did meet with Carl and Marie the week before. It was last week or the week before that, one of those weeks. And we did have a conversation about how we're going to move forward with the symposium, given our very limited committee membership. We talked about a work day versus a weekend, and I understand you did book the Station Theatre.
I had
Did you?
talked to them about November 2nd last time, but I haven't been able to contact them again about potential other dates, because I don't think that one, if that one works for I'm not here that weekend, but
Okay.
if that works for everybody else, it's not a problem.
And that would be a Saturday.
That's a Saturday.
So what we discussed was, if we wanted municipal staff from another municipality to come and present to us about their HCD, it would not work if it was on the weekend. At least that's my impression. We talked about the possibility of contacting a municipality who had a conservation district and also had a development within that district, and how they worked together and how it became a success story. And
So, is Lorraine still working on?
well, Lorraine, no, she's not. She did say at the last meeting she was able to attend that she would not. She didn't want to take the lead on the symposium, and that's why I met with Carl and Marie about it.
Oh,
Yeah, because she really did lead, and she said, please do this for me, please do this, and I was not involved in it for several years because it always was when I was traveling.
yeah.
So that's as far as we got, really. Talking about trying to find a place with a success story, how it had worked, because concerns that people may have are about that very thing, about developing within the guidelines that are going to be imposed on the Heritage Conservation District.
Sounds interesting to me.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds very interesting.
So, do you think it would be all right to move back to a weekday then?
Yeah,
The other concern you
Whatever
had
works for us.
about the November was that if we were going to send them off to lunch, it might be cold and horrible out.
Yeah,
If we could have done
Yeah.
that earlier, before Thanksgiving, it would have worked, wouldn't it? So,
What?
yeah.
during the week is maybe difficult for people who are working and stuff like that. I mean, for us it's not a problem, but I'm wondering, like, do we have to have it like almost a whole day?
Well, it's always been a day,
Yeah,
traditionally.
but what if it was an evening, like from 6 to 10?
I don't think we'd get as good attendance in the evening. Like 10 o'clock, everybody wants to go home by,
By 9.
be at home by 9.
At home. And so 6 to 9 is just too short.
Yeah, I
You
think
won't get
so.
enough. Yeah.
That was Carl's impression, was that if we want any kind of municipal staff from a different municipality, we need to have it during their working day, which I suppose would be, considered part of their
Part of their
part of
job.
their job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose the crowd that we're attracting are people who are retired somewhat, semi-retired.
The people who tend to attend the symposium generally are members of other municipal heritage committees
Right.
in the surrounding area,
Yeah.
Elizabethtown, Kidley, Brockville,
Yeah.
whatever, and we share with them.
And they will make the time to show up.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes, they've always come on a weekday.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
We had also tried to find individual people who live or work in an HCD, but we were not successful with that.
No.
Yet.
So, not yet. No.
Not yet.
Carl, do you have any comments to make about that, about the symposium and finding a municipality that?
Well,
do you
I
have
think to some
comments?
extent, I think there will be a little bit of trial and error if we're interested in heritage conservation districts. We've already had Perth come and present last week, but we can or last
Last year.
last year.
Last year,
So I think either We look for, try to find somebody within the town of Perth, a resident or business owner, or else we try a different municipality, one who's less known to us but may have some interesting experiences to share. And again, I haven't talked to anybody from Prince Edward County, but I just think of an example of downtown Picton and seeing that it's a place that has a very strong historic character and is developing. One of the concerns we heard at the open house for the Heritage Conservation District was, I think we heard clearly from residents that they don't want to see us bubble wrap the downtown and prevent development. And we're seeing, and there are examples out there of heritage districts in downtown cores that have flourished and have seen development, but development in a very compatible, sympathetic context that sort of builds on that sense of place. So that may involve some research on our end to find potentially some examples there and see if we can bring in somebody from one of those communities.
That would be good if we could do that. I think that would be interesting and very worthwhile. And maybe we'd even attract some local people who now know what project we're working on, who may want to come to the symposium and hear more about it.
Do we have a date for the fall HCD meeting, public meeting?
We do not.
Okay. It would, if they could kind of sync up in any way.
So we have had
Nice.
we have had some conversations with the folks from Stantec about that. At this point, they're not prepared to make a recommendation as to whether or not, as to what an HCD boundary would look like if they're going to recommend one. Obviously, the direction they're heading there is going to sort of inform to some extent the direction we want to take with that symposium. So they know that those conversations are ongoing. I think they may even be open to attending the symposium. It gives them an opportunity to present their work in a bit of a different, to a bit of a different setting, to different audience. It may cost, it will cost us extra certainly if we go that route. But no, we don't have a date yet. I think there's still a few logistical pieces and timing pieces that we're trying to work through.
Do you want me, in the meantime, to check with the theater and see if there's Fridays or weekdays, like in October and November, what the availability is?
Go ahead.
I did contact them after I was asked to do so, and October 4 and 11 are available. They're Fridays, and most Fridays in November.
October 11th is probably Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
right?
I would think.
Probably.
Yeah.
So we did say before, I think, that there's nothing wrong with having it in November. So
No.
maybe we should have a Friday in November. And
Sure.
we need to pin that down, really, don't we? Like the first Friday, do you think, or?
I'm not here.
Oh, you're not here the first.
Oh, you're not
Well,
here.
we want you to be here. The second Friday then.
It'd be the 8th, November 8th.
November the 8th. And failing that, the Friday after. So that if you could call them again, Marie, so that if we don't have the 8th, we can have the following Friday.
So I'll give them a shout and book November 8th.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, we know what our theme is, but we need a catchy title, like the ones that Lorraine produced over the years. For example, Heroes in Heritage, that was a good one, and revitalizing our main streets and so on. I liked that phrase, though, that you said, Carl, about creating a cohesive sense of space. I wonder if we can bring that into the title.
It seems like a sort of a secondary tagline. It's just on its own and feels very
Not on its own, no.
It's a little lengthy too.
Well, a lot of them have, like a secondary, a short
Title,
thing. And then,
short title to it, yeah.
Because that's what we're trying to do, really, in creating the conservation district. bring it all together.
I'm trying to create a place that is attractive and draws people in.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Okay, well,
Sorry,
Yeah, please.
Lorraine's not going to take the lead on this?
no, she said she wasn't.
Okay. Is Marie going to take the lead on this?
Hmm?
Or, sorry. I forgot your name.
Jenny?
Jenny. I'm
No,
sorry. This is Marie.
I guess I am.
Oh, okay. All right.
Since I've already met with Carl and Marie about
Okay.
it, if that's all right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify, yeah.
Yeah.
And you just hand out the orders.
Okay. Well, we'll set the date. Think about contacts. Start, looking for people and take it from there, I guess. I'll talk to Lorraine about it as well,
Sure.
about how she handled it, because I don't really know.
But a lot of the mechanic stuff, like arranging for the table, delivering chairs and that,
Right.
I can do a lot of that. Delivering,
Good.
putting posters up,
Good.
things
Good.
like that. I can do.
Well, we have a few months anyway.
Yeah.
Don't we?
Yeah, my workload will slow down by that time, I hope.
It should.
It should,
By
it's right.
November. Okay, should we go ahead with the next item then, which is the I've labeled it the Algonquin College project. We had, Carl and Marie and I had an excellent meeting just yesterday with Sean Thompson from Algonquin College, who's in charge of the project, and 4 students. And they came to show us what they've done so far. So they are doing a survey of the area of town that starts up at the arena and goes right down to the river and is like Maple Avenue, George Street, and James Street, and all the cross streets in between. So it's a long rectangle. It doesn't come up to Beckwith, but it does come out to Elmsley, up at the top end, up at the north end of town. They're surveying something like 350 to 400 properties in that whole area. They're identifying architectural styles that I personally wouldn't have thought of. I was quite surprised when I saw that their preliminary list. But their project is twofold, though. They are looking for properties that may possibly qualify for heritage designation, but they are also looking for properties where they can suggest ways that the property owners can improve the appearance of their properties, particularly the facade, I would assume. They have a form they're using called Building Stock Inventory, and that's included in your package as well. So they're going to identify the architectural style, the original facade character-defining elements of the property, and the current state of those elements, and the heritage value of the property, and then they're looking into priority repairs in the roof, windows, doors, trim, foundation, building envelope, and exterior finishes. They're going to make recommendations for recovering the character-defining elements, and they're going to look at the historical context of these properties as well, because we did indicate to them at the meeting that in order to qualify for heritage designation, a property must meet 2 of the 3 criteria, which are architectural value, associative value, and contextual value. So just the architecture on its own is not enough to consider a heritage designation. So they are working hard at this. They have 3 more weeks on the project. They are developing a complete chart with photograph of the property and this information included as well. for their own college purposes, but also it will really help us because now that it doesn't have to be a lot of volunteer hours researching these properties. This is wonderful. It's being done for us as a Algonquin College project. Would you like to add anything, Carl?
Well, I think in a way this is they've done a similar project in Perth over the last number of years. They've taken different students out to do different pieces. They're focusing a little bit more on residential development here. I believe they focused more on commercial development in Perth, but this isn't necessarily a one-off. I think if it's a good project for them and if it works for us, they're likely going to be looking for some financial support for in coming years, more than this year anyway. But they may be looking at different parts of town in the future year. They may look at properties on the other side of Beckwith or properties on the south side of Rideau. So in a way, this could be the first year of a multi-year relationship with their heritage carpentry program.
And it turns out to basically to be an inventory of the building stock, residential building stock in town, which for us is, I think it's really fascinating when they discover these some of the buildings they identified were little tiny houses that you wouldn't even notice as you were walking down the street. Whereas when I walked around the neighborhood, I picked out the big fancy ones, thinking that those were the ones that they would research, but that wasn't the case. Because, as it was pointed out, the ones I had chosen really were all the same architectural style with slight variations. So, have a lot to learn about architecture still. Yes, Carl.
It was fascinating because I think Dorothy was looking at one type of house, I was looking at one, they were looking at a different one, and it just goes to show the different sets of lenses and different sets of eyes that look at heritage through different perspective. I think in time there's at the end of the day we're going to want to see if this work can be useful in a practical sense as well from our perspective. I think having the records, providing them if somebody's looking for ideas on developing is all well and good, but I think there will be potentially decision touch points, especially as we look forward to implementing a future heritage conservation district, as to is there a municipal role in assisting or directing or supporting residents in taking good heritage custodianship of their property. So those are conversations to be held at a later date.
Any comments? Other comments? Questions? No?
Sounds good.
All right. That brings us then to roundtable. Jenny, do you have anything for roundtable?
I don't think so.
Class?
No.
Carl?
Nothing for me other than just thanking Richard and Marie and for the work that they put into setting up the public open house for our HCD. It was weren't a ton of people there, maybe 12 or 13 from the community, but I think that really allowed some very, very good conversations with those folks. Those who came tended to stay for a while and chatted with the consultants, chatted with staff, and I think really left with a greater understanding of what it is that the Heritage Conservation District is and isn't. Counselors, there were a couple of counselors there as well, and certainly they heard from the public that they want to be consulted, they want to be kept in the loop. So I think the process we're following, sort of that two-way conversation with our stakeholders, we'll keep on doing that.
Okay. Marie, do you have anything for roundtable? Is Chris actually with us?
Is he just listening, I thought?
Or because he...
Well, yes, he is.
Has it?
He is?
He said he would turn on the volume.
He hasn't
Tell him to
said
say
anything.
hello.
Oh.
Does our student planner have anything around?
Not yet? Next meeting, maybe? Okay, all right. So the next meeting is scheduled for July the 9th. Is that a Tuesday? I suppose. July the 9th at 4:30 p.m. So would someone move that we adjourn the meeting, please? Class, thank you, meeting adjourned.